Every few years, Microsoft drops a new version of Windows. And every single time, the same cycle plays out without fail. The announcement lands. The tech press runs wall-to-wall coverage about how this is the biggest change to Windows in a generation. The upgrade prompts start appearing. And millions of people click upgrade without reading a single line of what they are actually agreeing to. Because it is Windows, it is what runs on their machine, and the assumption is that newer is better. That assumption has quietly cost Windows users more than any of them realize. And with Windows 12 now entering the conversation, with the leaks confirmed, with the hardware requirements surfacing, with Microsoft's direction becoming undeniably clear, Hardware Brief is not going to tell you to upgrade. We are going to tell you exactly the opposite. We are going to show you what Windows 12 actually is beneath the marketing. What Microsoft is building toward, not what they say they are building, but what the product roadmap, the leaked architecture, the NPU requirements, and the subscription signals actually tell you about where your operating system is headed. And we are going to give you the full picture of why, for the first time in Windows history, the case for not upgrading is stronger than the case for upgrading, and what your real alternatives are. This is the briefing. Let's get into it. Before we talk about Windows 12, you need to understand the state of Windows right now in May 2026, because the context is everything. Windows 11 just hit 72, 57% global desktop market share as of February 2026, up from just over 50% in December 2025. That 2-month jump of nearly 22 percentage points is the sharpest single-period increase in Windows version adoption in a decade. On the surface, that looks like a success story. In reality, it is mostly the product of a deadline, not enthusiasm. Windows 10 support ended on October 14, 2025. Millions of users and enterprises who had been sitting on Windows 10 had no choice but to upgrade or buy new hardware. The adoption surge was forced, not earned. And the quality of that forced upgrade is reflected in what happened next. Shortly after Windows 11 crossed the 50% mark, it started losing market share. Users who had upgraded were rolling back to Windows 10. Windows Central's own reporting put it plainly: Windows 11 does not have a feature problem. It has a trust problem. And the events of early 2026 made that trust problem dramatically worse. In January 2026, a Patch Tuesday update broke basic application functionality on millions of Windows 11 machines. Users could not run standard apps. Some could not shut down their PCs without manually rolling back the update. It was not a minor glitch. It was a multi-part failure that required Microsoft to issue an emergency fix, and that left IT departments scrambling. Then Microsoft confirmed it had granted the FBI access to BitLocker encryption keys upon request, the encryption system that Windows 11 markets as a core security feature protecting your data. The same data protection that Microsoft uses as a selling point for upgrading is the same encryption that Microsoft hands over to law enforcement without a warrant requirement, based on their own cooperation policy. This is the operating system that 72% of Windows users are now running, not because they chose it freely, because Microsoft made the alternative progressively untenable. And now, with Windows 12 on the horizon, and with leaked architecture documents, hardware requirement signals, and Microsoft's AI strategy converging, the next forced upgrade cycle is already being set up. Hardware Brief's job is to show you the architecture of that setup before it captures you. Let me be direct about what we know and what we do not know as of today, because this channel operates on verified data, not speculation dressed up as reporting. Here is what is confirmed. Microsoft has not officially announced a product called Windows 12. There is no press release, no official release date, no confirmed hardware requirement sheet from Microsoft's website. What we have is a convergence of leaked code names, internal engineering references, hardware partner roadmaps, NPU requirement documentation from Microsoft's own developer guidance, and credible industry reporting from outlets including Windows Central, PC World, and Tom's Hardware. The picture that emerges from those sources is coherent and consistent, and it tells you a story that Microsoft is not yet ready to tell officially. The codename is Hudson Valley Next. Multiple sources, including Windows Central and PC World, have confirmed this as an internal reference point for the next major Windows milestone. The architecture underneath it is called Core PC, a modular redesign of the Windows core that breaks the operating system into separable components, rather than the monolithic structure that Windows has used for decades. The goal of Core PC is to make Windows more adaptable across device types, more efficient for AI workloads, and more capable of running on constrained hardware like IoT devices, while simultaneously enabling Microsoft to gate certain modules behind different licensing tiers. That last point is important. Modular architecture is not just a performance story, it is a monetization story. When your operating system is one monolithic block, it is difficult to draw a line between what is included in the base license and what costs extra. When it is a set of separable modules, drawing that line becomes architecturally simple. Microsoft's existing subscription portfolio, Windows 365 for enterprises, Microsoft 365 for consumers already demonstrates the company's comfort with recurring revenue models. Core PC creates the technical foundation to apply that model to the operating system itself at a granular level. Now here is where the hardware picture gets very specific and very relevant for this channel's audience. The most concrete confirmed fact about Windows 12's direction comes from Microsoft's own published Copilot Plus PC documentation. Microsoft requires a neural processing unit, an NPU, capable of at least 40 TOPS or trillion operations per second for full Copilot Plus functionality, 16 GB of RAM, a 256 GB SSD, TPM2, 0, secure boot. Read that list carefully. Not 8 GB of RAM, 16 GB, which is twice the Windows 11 minimum, not a recommended configuration, a required one for the full experience, and an NPU delivering 40 TOPS, a chip that did not exist in consumer hardware at scale before 2023, and that is not present in the vast majority of machines that currently run Windows 11 today. The AMD Ryzen AI 300 series and Intel Core Ultra 200V series are currently the primary processors that clear this bar. Machines built before 2024 do not have NPUs at all, and many machines built in 2024 do not meet the 40 TOPS threshold. Industry analysis from credible sources projects that the full Windows 12 release, whenever Microsoft officially pulls the trigger, is targeting a 2027 window anchored to the October 2027 end-of-service date for Windows 11 version 25H2 for home and pro users. That is the same structural play Microsoft ran with Windows 10. Windows 10 support ended and the upgrade pressure began. The same clock is already ticking for Windows 11's 25H2 feature update, and the hardware requirements for what comes next are already defined. Now let us address the subscription question directly, because this is the most debated element of the Windows 12 story, and it deserves a precise answer rather than either dismissal or amplification. The most aggressive version of the rumor, that Windows 12 will be a mandatory subscription OS that bricks older machines unless you pay monthly, is not supported by verified evidence. Multiple credible sources have pushed back on that specific claim. Microsoft has not announced a consumer OS subscription replacing the perpetual license model. But here is what is both verified and consequential. Code references in Windows builds have included subscription status strings. Microsoft's existing Windows 365 Cloud PC product is already a subscription-based Windows instance targeted at enterprises. Advanced AI features in Copilot Plus are already gated behind hardware requirements that most current machines cannot meet. And Microsoft's own financial structure, where Windows license revenue is a declining share of total revenue while Microsoft 365 and Azure subscriptions are growing, creates a clear commercial incentive to push premium OS features into recurring revenue tiers. The subscription is not arriving as a single dramatic policy change. It is arriving the same way everything else in this story has arrived, incrementally, feature by feature, one update at a time. Let us get concrete. Here are the 3 specific data-backed reasons that Hardware Brief is not upgrading to Windows 12, and the reasons you should seriously consider the same position. The TPM2 0 requirement that locked 240 million functional PCs out of Windows 11 was already the most aggressive hardware gate Microsoft had ever imposed. The NPU requirement for Windows 12's full functionality is a different order of magnitude. Think about the installed base for a moment. The machines that cleared the TPM2 0 bar for Windows 11 typically date from 2017 onward. Those are machines with mainstream Intel 8th, 9th, and 10th generation processors, AMD Ryzen 1000 through 5000 series chips, and discrete GPUs that play modern games without breaking a sweat. None of those processors have NPUs. A machine built in 2020 with a Core i9 and an RTX 3080, a machine that is, by any reasonable performance metric, a powerful and capable PC, does not clear the 40 TOPS NPU bar. Not even close. What Microsoft is engineering is an upgrade gate that excludes not just the decade-old machines excluded by TPM2, 0, but the machines that users bought and built to meet the Windows 11 standard. Users who upgraded hardware specifically to comply with Microsoft's last set of requirements will be looking at another round of hardware replacement within 3 to 4 years of the first one. The commercial interest here is not hidden. Microsoft's hardware partners, Intel, AMD, Qualcomm, the OEM PC manufacturers, are banking on what analysts have called a PC supercycle, driven by AI hardware requirements. Every OEM is already positioning new devices as Windows 12 ready. The alignment of the operating system roadmap with the hardware vendor's product cycle is not coincidental. It is coordinated. Your upgrade is their revenue. Hardware Brief's position. If your machine runs your workload today, a hardware requirement invented to support AI features you did not ask for is not a reason to buy new hardware. It is a reason to evaluate whether your next operating system should be Windows at all. Every piece of Windows 12 marketing, every leaked screenshot, every PC World breakdown, every OEM presentation leads with AI. Copilot as a system service, context-aware assistance, real-time on-device language translation, intelligent photo organization, automated workflow assistance. The framing is that Windows 12 is the operating system that will finally make AI useful on your desktop. Hardware brief covered Windows Recall. Recall was Microsoft's first major attempt to put AI at the center of the Windows experience, and it shipped in a version that stored your passwords, credit card numbers, and private documents in a plaintext database on your device. Security researcher Alexander Hagena demonstrated that malware could exploit Windows Hello authentication to access recall data even after Microsoft's rebuild with encryption. The rebuilt version launched as an opt-in feature under increased scrutiny. But the core concept, an OS that maintains a continuous visual record of everything you do, is still what Microsoft is building around. The intelligent photo organization features process your photos through AI models. The context-aware Copilot integration processes the content on your screen to provide assistance. The real-time translation features process your audio. These are the headline Windows 12 capabilities, and each one of them involves your data, your photos, your documents, your conversations, your screen content, being processed through Microsoft's AI infrastructure. The question that Microsoft's marketing does not answer clearly is, what happens to that data? Where does it go? How is it retained? Who can access it? The BitLocker precedent from January 2026, where Microsoft confirmed it provides encryption keys to law enforcement on request, is a direct answer to what Microsoft-held security features means in practice. The data that runs through Windows 12's AI features is subject to the same framework. For this channel's audience, people who have spent years being precise about what goes into their builds and what performance they get out of them, the question of what runs on your hardware and where your data goes is not paranoia. It is the same due diligence you apply to every other component decision. Let us put the full tab on the table. In the 18 months preceding Windows 12's arrival, Microsoft shipped a feature that stored your passwords in plain text, confirmed that it provides BitLocker encryption keys to the FBI, broke basic application functionality with a Patch Tuesday update, and required users to manually roll back their systems, eliminated every known path to setting up Windows without a Microsoft Cloud account, implemented Copilot integrations and File Explorer that silently processed file contents without user disclosure, then walked those integrations back only after enterprise security teams revolted. Each of these events, individually, would be considered a serious trust violation from any other software vendor. Collectively, they describe an 18-month period where the operating system running on 1 billion devices repeatedly prioritized Microsoft's commercial and compliance interests over the users running it. Windows 12 is built on the same architecture, maintained by the same organization, subject to the same government cooperation framework, and funded by the same commercial incentives that produced every one of those events. The new version number does not reset the track record. The new AI features do not address the trust deficit. The new hardware requirements that force another upgrade cycle do not represent a change in direction. They represent an acceleration of the exact pattern that has characterized every Microsoft decision since 2021. Hardware Brief does not cover problems without covering solutions. Here is the precise breakdown of your actual options. Not abstract alternatives, but concrete choices with real implications for real hardware. Option 1, stay on Windows 11, strategically, not passively. Windows 11 version 25H2 has a documented end-of-service date of October 2027 for Home and Pro editions. That is 18 months from now. For users who need Windows for specific software, Adobe Creative Cloud, kernel anti-cheat gaming, enterprise line of business applications. Windows 11 is the correct call for the immediate term, but staying on Windows 11 strategically means treating it as a managed tool, not a trusted platform. Turn off optional telemetry wherever the settings allow. Use a local account if you have not already. The paths to creating one during fresh installs still exist in the current build, though Microsoft has been closing them progressively. Use a privacy-focused browser as your default rather than Edge. Install uBlock Origin on Firefox and keep it current. Control what you can within the platform constraints. Do not upgrade to Windows 12 on day one. Watch what the early adopter reports say about data handling, about the actual behavior of the AI features, about what the first Patch Tuesday updates do to systems. The Windows 11 launch and the Patch Tuesday disasters of early 2026 both had one thing in common. The users who waited 2 to 3 months before upgrading avoided the worst of the damage. Apply that lesson to Windows 12. Option 2, Linux. The timing has never been better and the blockers have never been lower. Hardware Brief has covered the Linux migration story in depth, and the data supporting it has only gotten stronger. Linux desktop market share reached 7% globally in 2025, a 70% increase over 3 years. Linux hit 5, 33% on Steam in March 2026, the highest ever recorded on the platform. Approximately 106,000 of Steam's 117,981 games run on Linux via Proton as of late 2025. The app ecosystem covers every mainstream use case except Adobe Creative Suite and kernel anti-cheat games. For Hardware Brief's audience specifically, people who build custom rigs, who care about what their hardware is actually doing, who want an operating system that does not maintain a continuous screenshot log of their activity and provide it to law enforcement on request. Linux in 2026 is a different proposition than it was in 2019. The two distributions that are most immediately relevant are Zorin OS 18 for users who want the most Windows-like transition experience, and Linux Mint 22. 3 for users who want the most stable, most community-tested general alternative. Bazite is the gaming-focused distribution of choice for AMD GPU users who want Steam integration and gaming optimizations out of the box. All 3 are free. All 3 run on hardware that Windows 12 will not support. All 3 can be tested from a live USB before you commit to a single change. Option 3, Dual Boot, the smart middle ground for hardware enthusiasts. For users who need Windows for specific tasks, but want to move their daily computing onto a platform that does not require a Microsoft account, does not run a Copilot screenshot service, and does not impose a hardware gate for every new version. Dual Boot is the correct starting position. Install Linux on your primary drive alongside Windows. Set Linux as the default boot option. Use Windows when you specifically need it for Adobe, for anti-cheat games, for proprietary tools. Boot into Linux for everything else: web browsing, productivity, communication, media, development. The experience of dual booting on modern hardware is straightforward. Both Zorin and Mint handle partition setup automatically during installation. Windows files are accessible from Linux via NTFS support that both distributions carry natively. The transition is gradual, reversible, and gives you time to evaluate whether Linux covers enough of your workload to make a full migration worthwhile. The majority of users who start with dual boot find that over time, the number of reasons to boot into Windows decreases steadily. Here's where Hardware Brief stands on Windows 12, stated plainly. We track upgrade cycles on this channel. We cover the moments when a manufacturer's roadmap diverges from a user's interest and presents that divergence as an upgrade. We have seen it in GPU pricing. We have seen it in CPU generation requirements. We have seen it in storage form factor transitions. And we are seeing it now at a scale that dwarfs every hardware cycle we have ever covered in the operating system that runs on every PC your audience owns. The NPU requirement for Windows 12 is not a feature. It is a fence. Industry leaks point to Windows 12 launching with mandatory AI hardware requirements, and timing isn't coincidental. Microsoft appears to be orchestrating a forced upgrade cycle that will push both consumers and businesses toward new hardware. Every OEM already has Windows 12 ready devices staged for launch. The timing of the hardware requirement, the end of service dates for Windows 11's current builds, and the AI features that require the new chips are not independent design decisions. They are coordinated elements of an upgrade cycle that extracts billions from users who believe they are making a product choice when they are actually being herded through a commercial funnel. Windows 11 now holds 34% of the global market share, still significantly below Windows 10's 63% before it went end of life. Releasing another version of Windows too soon would only add to end user confusion. Microsoft knows this. The delay in officially announcing Windows 12 is not engineering caution. It is commercial timing, the same timing that produced the Windows 10 end-of-life deadline, the same timing that produced the TPM2, Zero Hardware Gate, the same timing that is producing the NPU requirement now. Windows 11 is in a weird space in 2026. It is still used by hundreds of millions of people and provides program accessibility and stability. But it does not have a feature problem. It has a trust problem. That trust problem does not get solved by releasing Windows 12. It gets papered over by a new version number while the same underlying decisions continue. The hardware you have built or bought is capable. The operating system market has alternatives that were not viable 3 years ago and are genuinely viable now. The timeline gives you runway to make a considered decision before Microsoft's next deadline lands on your machine. Do not let the upgrade prompt make this decision for you. Subscribe to Hardware Brief. Drop a comment. Are you planning to upgrade to Windows 12? Are you staying on 11? Or have you already made the Linux move? We cover what the data actually says, and your use cases shape what we dig into next. See you in the next briefing.